I'm trying something new out on Google Slides. I've just discovered it allows me to accept live questions. So there is a little link there if you can read it. It's goo.gl/slides/rfzdnt, or Frisdent, as we've decided it should be pronounced. Again, I've no idea if it'll work, so wish me luck. Let's all try out experimental Google things first thing in the morning. Before I go any further, I want to make it absolutely clear. I am not a mental health professional in any way, shape or form. I'm a former teacher. They're similar, but not the same, no. And also, there may be some things in my talk that you find difficult, so just be aware I'm going to be quite frank, open and honest with you on a number of issues, and so I hope you're not easily offended. So first of all, a little bit about me. I was a primary school teacher for 11 years. I recently left teaching because I'm so passionate about sharing my love for coding and computer science that I wanted to share with more people. So in the last 12 months, I've been to Texas, Orlando, Argentina, Brazil, and around the UK, sharing good practice for teaching computer science, particularly Python, obviously. So that's who I am. I work part-time for PyTop. I have a nice shiny green computer that I sometimes carry around with me. I wasn't paid to say that, honest. And yeah, I'm a Raspberry Pi certified educator, Google certified educator, all these different letters I can add after my name, and an independent consultant. So if you know of a school that needs some help, especially primary or Key Stage 3, give them my details, send them my way. So I'm going to start off with a sort of strange question. Oh no, sorry. Why am I doing this talk? I'm doing this well, aren't I? Mental health issues are on the rise. We know this as a fact. People aren't necessarily aware of what we mean by mental health and mental health issues. There was recently a report, it was actually released this week on Thursday, that was called Thriving at Work, a review of mental health and employers. And there were loads of wonderful statistics all over the BBC. I would urge you to have a look at that report. There are some interesting facts which I'll go through later. There are 300,000 people with mental health problems who leave their jobs each year because of their mental health problems. And to be honest, there's a lot of stigma around it. As soon as I said I was doing this talk, lots of people said to me, why? I don't really understand what's, it's mental health. Most people were really supportive and really keen to hear more, but I'm concerned that there's still a huge stigma, and I think we need to all open our eyes to what's going on to the vast majority, it feels like, of people. And also there are a lot of people who want to know how to help but don't really know how. So I'm going to make Alex start running around the room now. He wasn't prepared for this. I'm going to be very honest, very blunt. What do you see when you look at me? I want just a single word that you see when you look at me. So if anyone's got something, put your hand up and Alex will run to you with a microphone.
Is this working?
Please be nice.
Enthusiasm. Confident.
Energetic. You've just stolen everyone's word there.
Person.
Okay. Any more? There's still hands going up. Yep.
I love your t-shirt, embrace your weird, and you don't have big earrings. Big smile and glasses.
Geeky.
So, some of you may not realise, but maybe 5 nights ago I cried myself to sleep. I'm not that confident. I suffer from anxiety and depression. So, this is my life. Since I was 19, so I'm going to get emotional at times, I'm sorry. When I was 19, I was first diagnosed with depression. I was at university, I came home, I became suicidal. It was not fun. Since then, for the last 15 years, I've suffered from depression on and off. It's been a very hard journey for me. Sometimes there's a reason behind me being depressed. So when my father got very ill, it was obviously going to make me struggle. Sometimes there's no reason. When I went to university, the most we could attribute it to was family issues. There wasn't really a reason. I just got problems with my chemical balance, quite frankly. There can be days where I will feel amazing. This morning I was feeling amazing. 12 hours later, I don't want to go out in public, I don't want to go near anybody, I want to cry. I want to sit in a corner and be away from everybody. I have massive anxiety and low self-esteem. I assume people won't like me, which is why I pretend to be confident. I will walk into a room and be the loudest person in the room, because then people might like me. I'm sure some of you are thinking, I might do that too. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why I'm so outgoing, so confident, so over the top sometimes. It's got me into trouble because sometimes people think I'm really pushy and annoying, but it's because I'm scared. I suffer from SAD, seasonal affective disorder, which means in the winter I'm even more likely to struggle. Bless them, at PYCON they bought me a big, vibrant SAD light that sits on my desk, and everybody sits around it because it's a really nice, bright light. And massively suffer from imposter syndrome. Has any of you heard of imposter syndrome? So Nicholas emailed me on Monday to let me know I'd won the John Pinner Award, and my first thought was, he sent this to the wrong person. It can't be me, I don't do anything. And obviously that was a really good confidence boost for me, but at the back of my mind, this person was saying, no, don't be silly, it's not really you. And I've got this sort of weird empathy thing, so if I see anybody else or hear anybody else's sad story, I will burst into tears, even if it's not affecting me in any way. So this morning there was that lovely gentleman talking about Alzheimer's and talking about his coding thing, and I was actually sat crying in the hall, just because I can't seem to hear somebody else being sad without it affecting me. So yeah, I've had a fun journey through my life with depression. So I get sort of these symptoms quite often when I'm suffering from depression. These are sort of things you'll see from a person with depression. If I'm struggling, I've got no energy. On a day when I'm suffering from depression, I literally can't walk out the door because I can't bring myself to. Which will surprise those of you who know me and see me at events like this, because hyperactive is quite often a word used to describe me. So I can't see yeah, this is not working, my stupid Google thing. Yeah, tired all the time, I'm always tired. When I'm struggling, I'm either not hungry at all for a day, and then the next day I will eat all the junk food I can lay my hands on. So my weight fluctuates all over the place. I can be really irrational. People will say nice things to me and I'll snap. And I'll yell at them, and I'll be twitchy and all over the place. I don't believe things. Someone will say nice things and I'll think they're lying to me. Why would you say a nice thing to me? Don't be nice. And anything negative, any situation I'm in, I'll immediately be looking at the bad side of it. I mean, this is when I'm having a bad day. Obviously I'm not right now, so I can understand that none of these things are true. These are all in my head. So I've sort of had to develop all these coping strategies, and you know, I've had 15 years of it, and I've learned how to cope, and I've found that talking to people helps. The first time I publicly put on Facebook that I suffer from depression, it was like this huge weight had been lifted from my shoulders, and I got all these wonderful responses from people saying, you know, I never knew that about you, I really care, this is really helpful. That makes a difference. Having people say to me, I care about you, let me know when you're struggling, has changed my life. Knowing that I can literally message my friend, help, and she'll know what's happening, and she'll come, she'll message me, she'll send me a nice email, she'll send me a bottle of wine in the post or something even, or run over if she can. That makes a difference. Sometimes I'll just write a private blog post to myself saying I'm struggling. I actually did a public blog for a while just to document it for my own posterity, I guess, and that helped. I'm just trying to get my brain to understand that it's lying. And sometimes we describe it as like a little black dog. It's talking rubbish at us. And so whenever a friend I know is struggling with depression, I will be saying to them, don't ignore the voice, it's not telling you the truth, we do like you, you do have worth, you are valuable. But it's really, really difficult because that voice is very, very loud. So one of the things I wanted to explore when I wanted to do this talk was how we work if we've got a mental illness, or in my case with depression. And when I was teaching, I really didn't feel like I could tell people I had depression, because the immediate reaction was, well, surely you shouldn't be allowed to teach children. You shouldn't be allowed to do that in your position. And I would argue the exact opposite. Mental health in children, mental health problems in children is rising. I consider myself better placed than a lot of teachers to deal with that because I know what to look for and I know how it feels. Yes, there were times when I struggled to cope, but I knew about that and I took time off. or I asked someone to cover my lesson so I could just have some time to myself. I'm sure some of you would have seen I did a survey about mental health. I got 162 responses. I was expecting about 30. So it was really lovely for all of you who responded. Thank you. It means so much to me. And I copied some of the quotes that people wrote so you can sort of see the type of responses I had. And I'll go through some of the data as well. But I'm not going to read that to you. Hopefully, can you read that at the back? Yeah, brilliant. But you'll see these peppered through, and it's really interesting, some of the things people say, because you just don't realise what people are going through. I did PYCON UK this week, and I helped out, and there was a guy there called Martin, and he's messaged me specifically saying, please say my name. He messaged us all after PYCON UK to say he's struggling with depression and anxiety. He nearly didn't come back for day 2. We had no idea. At the end of day 2, we thought he was this wonderful, vibrant, enthusiastic person. He was leading his group that did a project, and actually he hadn't wanted to come in because he was convinced in himself that he wasn't good enough. Nobody would want to work on a project with him. Nobody would want to speak to him, and he wasn't worth it. And it sort of strikes me that you don't realise what's going on with people. You don't realise I'm struggling. You don't realise Martin's struggling. You don't realise any number of people in this room right now are struggling. So I've got a couple of case studies here. So a couple of my friends also struggle with a lot of my friends actually struggle with mental illness, and 2 of my friends were like, can you talk about me, please? Can you explain my mental illness? This is my friend Hannah, and she was very, very adamant I had to use her real name again. She wanted to face her demons, as we call it. And Hannah's also a teacher. She's still teaching, and she has bipolar, which is slightly different to anxiety. For those of you who don't understand, slightly different to depression. So depression is sort of a lack of serotonin imbalance, being dragged down, not being able to get back up again, whereas bipolar, you've got the 2 extremes. So you have hypomanias as well as depressive incidences. So you can get so overexcited that you don't know what you're doing. So Hannah has listed, again, I'm on the wrong screen. Sorry. I've broken everything. Well done, me. There we go, there's the quote that I mentioned earlier. I apologise for being on the wrong screen there. And this is Hannah. It's very small writing, so I will summarise some of the things she said, but she said she's been to hospital twice because she overdosed on drugs. She suffers constantly from anxiety. She has to have medical checks every 6 months because of the medication that she takes and how it can damage her organs. She's been suffering from episodes of mania since she was very young, and quite often a mania leads to a full emotional breakdown. Hannah's an excellent teacher, by the way. She works with children with learning difficulties, and she's like me, she's aware of when she's struggling, so she takes the time off and her school support her with that. And that's something I'm going to keep coming back to, that need to be supported. And occasionally with bipolar, unfortunately, you get things like auditory and visual hallucinations, which can make life really difficult. But again, it's awareness of that and awareness of what's going on, understanding the world around you. So another friend of mine, is it actually working this time? Yes. He was a web developer, and he suffered depression since he was a teenager as well. And something that he did quite often as a teenager was self-harm. Now, he's very open about it, so he will show his scars. But he said to me before, should I be doing that in front of children? And my response is, well, of course. They need to know that it's not just them. Because teenagers in particular, there are a lot of teenagers who self-harm because of depression and anxiety and other illnesses. And we need to know that there's hope. If you're suffering, if you're struggling, you can come out of the other side of that and still be a successful human, still get on in life. So I'm going to dual wielding my screens. This is going to be interesting. I don't like Google's new thing. There we go, I can see that one. And one of the things that Chris said is that he found that when he worked in certain places, it made his mental health significantly worse. The pressure, the other employees, the people in charge made his life more difficult, made him struggle. And that was something that was quite consistent in my survey. A lot of people said that their workplace seriously affected their mental health one way or another. I've been very lucky in my life that both the school I worked in previously and PyTop and all my other stuff now means I'm supported. the people I work with genuinely look after me. But there's a lot of places where that's not the case. Do we think this is going to work? Oh, it is. It's already on the next one. So I just sort of highlighted some of the mental health conditions that came out from my survey. You can see there depression, anxiety, bipolar, and dual wielding, going back to the other screen so I can read it. Borderline personality disorder, anorexia, bulimia, post-traumatic stress disorder, self-harming, obsessive-compulsive disorder, seasonal affective disorder. There's things like imposter syndrome, full schizophrenia. There's a broad range of mental illness, so it's difficult. We've got to be aware of different mental health issues as well. So I could say I've just got depression. That's my demon, that's what I struggle with, and that's very, very different to any other of these mental health conditions. And some people have more than one. Some people get them combined. Yay, it's working. So you can see here more quotes. One of the things I asked in my survey was, do you think coding helps or hinders your mental health? And I had a really interesting and broad range of answers to that question, generally ranging from yes to it would, but it's my job and it makes me stressful. So the first question I asked was, do you suffer from a mental health condition? My results are probably biased because I think people are more likely to fill in a survey about mental health if they already understand it. So 75%-ish of the respondees, of 162 people, said that yes, they have suffered from a mental health condition. I asked how their mental health was right now, out of 5. So 1 was, I'm struggling to cope. 5 was, I'm absolutely fine. It really surprised me that a lot of people, and some people didn't keep it anonymous, they gave me their name. A lot of people had told me at that moment in time that their mental health was a 1 out of 5. And it made me sort of feel really a little bit emotional that people were willing to share that with me, but also just scary to think, if you look at that range, that most of the people who said they suffered from a mental health condition were only a 3 or below. 3 out of 5 in terms of their current mental health. Quite scary. So more quotes from people to do with their mental health. I'm going to let you just read that one. There's not much point in me reading it to you. And then I'm going on to more statistics. Yay! I asked people if they've ever lied about their mental health. Unsurprisingly, most people had. So you can see there's a yes or no and then other squiggles. The other squiggles were generally, I haven't lied, I just haven't said anything. And text along those lines. So people generally feel like they can't tell the truth about their mental health at the moment. Are you comfortable talking about your mental health? Fairly evenly split between yes, no, and not sure. I'm obviously on the yes category, in case you couldn't tell. Have you ever felt judged? More than half of the people feel like they've been judged for their mental health condition, and I would probably say that's true. People have judged me when I've admitted I suffer from depression, and I try and be very open about it. So if mental health ever comes up, I'm like, yeah, I've got depression. But there is still this big stigma surrounding it. Does your condition prevent you from working? That was one of the other questions I asked. And you can see there 72.5% of people said sometimes, which is fair enough. I mean, I've sometimes been unable to work. I felt so bad I've had to say, I'm sorry, I can't. I need to just sit on the sofa with a bowl of ice cream and not speak to anyone. And a few people there said all the time their condition prevents them from working. So, scary. Do you feel supported by people around you? I know you can't read that very clearly, but 75% of people feel supported by their family, which means there are 25% of people that don't feel supported by their family. Around 70% feel supported by their friends. Again, that means we've still got those people out there who aren't being supported by their friends. Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to speed up. Scary there, only 25% or 27% feel supported by their family, by their employers. So that's not a great statistic. I'm going to speed up. Lots of people talking about being suicidal. People who know somebody who works with a mental health condition. 91% of the people who responded know somebody with a mental health condition. It's probably 100%, it's just that they don't know. So as I said to you before, one of the questions I asked was about what people should work, whether people should have certain jobs. And I just left it very open-ended. Should people be allowed to do any job they want with a mental health condition? And you can see that one person said, you know, I was a further education teacher, I think it helped, like my situation, it was brilliant. A few people said, you know, you shouldn't be doing certain jobs. Totally makes sense. If you're struggling, you shouldn't be a pilot. I can see that if you're having a bad time. But somebody had put, if it's stressful, you shouldn't be doing it. So I shouldn't be a teacher because it's stressful. And I understand where that opinion comes from, but personally I don't agree with that. I think, like any illness, if you are treating it, if you are taking the correct medications, if you are dealing with it, then that shouldn't stop you doing anything. So I sort of summarised how I believe it. I don't think anybody should say I shouldn't have been a teacher. I have to say one of the few things I think I'm good at in life is teaching. And the fact that I suffer from depression should not stand in the way of that. I think people need to be more open about mental health conditions, and I think employers in particular need to be more understanding about mental health conditions. A lot of people said they were worried that their workplace would judge them if they admitted to struggling. I'm trying to get through this really quickly. So 34% of my respondents felt like coding helped their mental health. 13% said it made things worse, but as I said, that seems to relate to the pressure of the workplace more than anything. Mental health can affect your ability to work. It's high pressure. Workplaces can completely destroy you. I'm going to let you read, I'm going to whiz through these. I will share these slides if anybody wants them. So this is an important one. How can you help people? I know a lot of people have asked me that. How can I help? I'm trying to go so quickly. Mental health is no different to physical health. There are good days and bad days. Some days, as I said at the beginning, some days I'm great, some days I'm rubbish. Mental health can affect your physical health. So when you're feeling low, you can't do things that you would normally be able to do. I wouldn't be able to get up and go for a run if I was struggling. You know, knowing someone cares makes a massive difference. Knowing that my boyfriend got up early this morning and drove here just to see this talk makes a difference to me. Saying something nice can make a difference. Not treating us like we're weird. So I had a colleague who found out I suffered from depression, and he sort of kept tiptoeing round me and being like really delicate and treating me like I was some sort of, I don't know how to describe it, but it didn't help. I know his heart was in the right place, but actually it kind of needs to be, how would I treat this person if they broke their leg? I would help them where I could, but I wouldn't patronise them or treat them like they were on a pedestal or something, or need to be kept away from everybody else. There were some summaries on the BBC website from the Mental Health at Work, Thriving at Work review. It's worth having a look at that. I'm going as fast as I can, I promise. I did put this slide in just for fun. When asked what languages people knew, I just wanted to prove it's not just Python people. So I've got 2 minutes for questions, I think, maybe. This is how you can get hold of me. I have a website, I have Twitter, I have email. I'm happy to talk to people. I have no problem. I've got the audience tools thing that I put up. Oh, apparently I've left on anonymous questions. Okay. Has being out about your mental health affected your job or ability to get a job? That's my biggest concern. In my situation, it hasn't. When I applied for my teaching job, there was a form that said, do you suffer from any mental health conditions? And I sat there for about half an hour. Do I put it or don't I? I'm not sure, I'm scared, what do I do? And eventually I ticked it, and I thought, you know what, stuff it. But I'm well aware that there are some people who feel like their employer wouldn't accept them having mental health conditions. I think, to be honest, you need to find a job that would be comfortable, because they're going to be more supportive. So you need those people who are willing to accept you. If you apply for a job and don't get it because of your mental health condition, you don't want to be there, realistically. Are there any other questions?
Any questions from the room?
Thank you for the talk and for the openness. So you said that a lot of people said specific work environments have made them ill. Were there any particular features that kept cropping up that we should try and remove from our workplace to help people?
It was generally referring to high pressure, people not understanding, feeling stressed. Those were a lot of them. There were a few people, because I had a lot of women respond, interestingly, and a lot of them said that sometimes the sort of lads culture at work made them struggle a lot. But yeah, it was generally just the high pressure, the stress, not making it a comfortable work environment. Thank you.
I think we've got time for one more if anybody has anything. Yep.
Do you ever feel that your imposter syndrome interacts with your depression? I can't be depressed because someone else has it worse than me.
Absolutely, 100%. And I quite often get this feeling of, I don't deserve to be depressed. There are people who struggle, and I'm not struggling. Why do I feel sad? It's great fun.
That's all the time we have. That's all the time we have for this session. But please now join me in thanking Kat for a very open, excellent talk.
Thank you very much.